From indomitable fortified structures to secret hideaways buried deep beneath the ground, bunkers offer protection from one's enemies and the hope of a refuge in the face of unthinkable danger. One of the largest, most secret bunkers ever built lies nestled in a lush and remote pocket of the Allegheny Mountains, near White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. The luxurious Greenbrier Hotel and Recreational Facility is a 5-hour drive from the nation's capital. This 6,500-acre resort is a playground for the rich and famous. The 531-room main hotel is complemented by 3 golf courses and innumerable amenities. But this old Southern-style mansion belies a deep secret. Behind this utility door, marked high voltage to keep out the curious, lies the entrance to one of the largest, most secret bunkers of the Cold War.
I'm standing at the wheel of a 25-ton blast door. This is one of 4 entrances into the bunker itself. We're standing at the west tunnel entrance. This particular door, as well as the other 3 doors, all have to be manually operated. It is 10 by 18, 18 inches thick, and it swings freely in closing it to lock it into place.
This bunker was designed to protect not an individual or small group, but every member of the United States Congress in the event of a nuclear strike. Codenamed Greek Island, the facility was encased by up to 3 feet of steel-reinforced concrete, with portions resting nearly 100 feet beneath the ground.
This bunker really was an amazing project in the sense that it was not just a big concrete box. It was a site where a whole segment of the government come down. They could live here, they could sleep here, they could eat here. All their physical needs were taken care of.
18 Spartan dormitories with a capacity of 60 individuals each comprised the core of the bunker. A dining facility able to feed 400 at a time, and chambers large enough to accommodate sessions by both the House of Representatives and Senate completed the complex. Enough food and water were stored to sustain the lawmakers for 60 days. Meanwhile, 42,000 gallons of diesel fuel was available to feed 3 generators, providing power for over a month. For government planners, this seemed a long enough period to ensure delivery of more supplies. Built in 1958, the construction of the Greenbrier bunker was shrouded in secrecy.
So the challenge was, the government is asking the Greenbrier and its owners, the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway, to build a huge 112,000 square foot steel reinforced concrete bunker right next to a major luxury resort hotel without anybody noticing what they're doing. So how are we going to do this is the issue. And they come up with a very clever idea, which is we're going to build it right in front of everybody's nose.
The plan called for the Greenbrier Hotel to build a new wing. Work on the new building would mask construction of the mammoth subterranean bunker. Tons of excavated earth from beneath the hotel were quietly disposed of by building an additional 9-hole golf course. But the simultaneous construction of the hotel and bunker led to some interesting compromises.
An unusual aspect to this secret bunker is that a portion of it, about 1/5 of the square footage, was in fact available to Greenbrier guests. In fact, situations would arise where you'd be standing there and somebody would sort of say, hey, I understand there's a secret bunker at the Greenbrier. And you say, no, there's no such thing. And there you were, standing inside of this secret bunker.
The room behind me was used by many thousands of Greenbrier guests. They never realized it was part of the bunker. Hidden behind this secret panel is an 18-ton blast door. When closed, it seals off the bunker from the hotel.
Despite the government's best efforts, covert construction and hidden doors could not keep the bunker secret. A Washington Post article in 1992 blew its cover. effectively destroying the facility as thoroughly as a nuclear bomb. Given the accuracy and power of today's weapons, a bunker is only as good as its anonymity. The newly exposed Greenbrier was retired, but most certainly not before another top-secret congressional bunker was opened to take its place. With secrecy at a premium, it goes without saying that the best bunkers in the world are the ones we know nothing about. The President of the United States is said to have access to a network of top-secret bunkers, probably located on or near military bases around the country. In addition, the President relies on a sort of flying bunker, Air Force One. Able to refuel in mid-air, the plane can stay aloft indefinitely or be flown to any number of secret hideouts. Bunkers, of course, can protect us from the enemy, but they can also protect the enemy from us. That's why building bunkers is only half of any country's defensive challenge. Learning how to smash through bunkers is equally important. Beneath this desert landscape sits a state-of-the-art fortified defensive position, a military bunker. Safely hidden from sight, the bunker is built of concrete and reinforced steel and protected by tons of earth. But it is about to be utterly destroyed. The GBU-28 Bunker Buster bomb has been specially designed to destroy hardened underground targets.
The GBU-28 is this weapon right here. In the front, it's got a laser detector where we can spot a laser on the ground, and this weapon will fly directly to that spot very accurately.
The heart of this bomb is a 5,000-pound warhead. But it is the brains of the weapon that make it especially effective against bunkers.
A fuse is a little device used to set off this warhead, and what it'll enable this weapon to do is actually count the floors it's going through in an underground bunker. So it can actually sense different stories, and we can have it go off in the precise room where a critical computer, radio transmitter, maybe even weapons of mass destruction are located.
Weapons such as the GBU-28 underscore a fact that bunker builders have struggled with since the dawn of the nuclear age. The destructive power unleashed by today's weapons is far greater than any structure can withstand. But that has not stopped people from trying to build the perfect bunker. One of the most impressive bunkers in the world lies beneath 9,565-foot Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Entombed nearly a third of a mile under this massive granite peak sits the Cheyenne Mountain Operations Center.
The reason that the United States established Cheyenne Mountain as a bunker was to create a central facility within which it could collect information initially about bomber attacks against the United States, hence its name, the North American Air Defense Command, NORAD, and later to warn the United States of an attack with ballistic missiles that presumably would have been launched from the Soviet Union.
Built in 1966, Cheyenne Mountain was one of the deepest and best protected military bunkers on the planet. The facility was specially designed to withstand a near hit by a nuclear device. Shielded by the mountain, the 15-building complex was shock isolated on hundreds of 3-foot steel springs. In the event of an attack, these springs would provide a moving barrier between the facility and shifting earth. 25-ton blast doors seal the 4.5-acre facility, protecting the military and civilian staff from the force and heat of a nuclear blast. Nearly 1,200 people can survive in this mountain for up to 3 weeks. At a cost of $142.4 million, the massive bunker jointly run by the United States and Canada is still active, protecting the personnel and equipment that scan the skies for enemy attacks. But few experts believe even this bunker could withstand a barrage from today's nuclear arsenal.
In the early days, nuclear weapons were not terribly accurate. A place like Cheyenne Mountain, for example, with the NORAD headquarters was reasonably safe because it was unlikely they could be directly hit. But today, with super accurate missiles, there's virtually no place that's invulnerable.
Not even a bunker in the middle of a mountain. Next, cannons and forts face off, while high explosives bring armies to new lows during World War I. The first GBU-28 bunker buster bombs were made from used cannon barrels. Bunkers will return on Modern Marvels. Bunkers are relatively recent creations on the military fortification family tree. But the story of defensive structures goes back to ancient times and the beginnings of war.
Fortifications have existed as long as people have built buildings. From the very earliest ages, there was a need to defend against some sort of hostile threat. And as technology advanced, the need to improve those defenses to meet that technology also increased.
For thousands of years, fortified positions had the upper hand during battle. Ancient siege machines were so ineffective against citadels and walled cities that attacking armies often resorted to treachery. During the legendary Trojan War, the Greeks spent 9 years trying to breach the walls of Troy. They finally succeeded after convincing the Trojans to accept a giant gift horse made of wood. Greek soldiers hidden inside the horse waited until they were safely through the city gates to mount their attack. The clandestine Greeks bear testament to the near invulnerability of early strongholds. From primitive forts of earth and rock to medieval castles of carved stone, these fortifications enabled a relatively small number of defenders to hold off armies many times their size. The first real challenge to defensive superiority came with the invention of the cannon, a powerful yet relatively mobile siege weapon. First used in the 14th century, projectiles fired from cannons forced builders to construct thicker walls to safeguard the structures within.
When artillery first came along, the first attempt that the military engineers tried to do was to make their walls thicker and stronger. But that didn't work. As artillery got better, it was able to knock down the stone walls no matter how thick they made them.
Military engineers responded by sinking fortress walls into the ground, using the earth to absorb a shell's impact. The new defensive technique, coupled with the relative inaccuracy of early artillery, shifted the advantage back to the defender, where it remained well into the 19th century.
We've reached a stage where the technology of war makes fixed, known facilities highly vulnerable. Once you have accurate artillery, you have the ability to destroy a facility. It might take you days or weeks, but very few things can withstand long-term assault with artillery.
The American Civil War saw the first widespread use of these more accurate weapons. In 1862, just 2 years after the start of hostilities, the Confederate-held Fort Pulaski on Cockspur Island in Savannah, Georgia, bore the brunt of an attack using newly developed rifle-barreled cannons. Union shells fired from these weapons were stunningly accurate. Fort Pulaski's 7.5-foot thick walls were pummeled by artillery fired more than a mile away. The dominance of ramped earth and stone walls was quickly coming to an end. The introduction of high explosives at the end of the 19th century made forts even more obsolete.
High explosives were capable of doing great amount of damage, more than any masonry or earth wall could sustain. So then there was a need to develop a new technology to deal with that. And the technology that they came up with was reinforced concrete.
At the turn of the 20th century, both France and Germany began to use the new technology to strengthen existing forts. Neither country realized that just 15 years later, the hardened structures would be at the center of the greatest battles of the First World War. Germans built the first true military bunkers and incorporated them into their trench lines during World War I. These relatively small structures made of steel and reinforced concrete defended German troops, command centers, and weapons against the nearly 5 million tons of explosives fired by the Allies. Here in the French countryside lay the remnants of a World War I concrete bunker. Less than 120 kilometers north of Paris, this structure was once part of a 250-mile trench and bunker complex, comprising the famed Western Front. Today, the bunker's rusting steel reinforcing rods protrude from the crumbling concrete shell, as it marks the boundary between a bean patch and a field of wheat. During the war, machine gunners inside these bunkers were blinded by smoke and deafened by the sound of their weapons reverberating off the bare walls. But being inside the bunker was far preferable to being outside. Firing through slits, known as embrasures, bunker gunners took a terrible toll in Allied lives. So hated were the machine gunners that upon surrendering, they were often executed by vengeful soldiers. Still, the bunkers were remarkably successful.
One of the reasons that the bunker concept really took hold was the realization that the old-fashioned fort was really a case of putting all of your eggs in one basket. A fort was considered to be a target, and damage to one portion could potentially damage another portion. So you wanted to disperse your defense as much as possible, and that led to putting everything in isolated bunkers.
France and Germany each suffered nearly 1.5 million casualties in the Great War. The catastrophic losses prompted both countries to create bunker and defensive line fortifications on an unprecedented scale. The French began construction on the Maginot Line in 1929, a 200-mile defensive barrier that they believed would keep Germany at bay. Stretching over much of the northern and eastern borders of France and incorporating many natural barriers, the mammoth structure may be the greatest bunker complex ever built.
The Maginot Line used the theory of a thin, tough skin. A very narrow but very strong line of fortifications that was designed to repulse the enemy.
The fortification consisted of a line of strong, mutually supporting, completely self-sufficient bunkers. Armed with machine guns and anti-tank weapons, much of the line bristled with artillery. Some of the structures were connected via tunnel to a subterranean support complex containing a command post, living quarters, storage facilities, and power plant. In short, everything necessary to make them fully independent. The largest structures within the line utilized integrated rail systems to move men and ammunition. Taken as a whole, the Maginot Line was a formidable obstacle to any hostile advance. But it would not fulfill the French desire to keep the Germans out. In 1940, soon after the outbreak of World War II, Hitler's forces completely circumvented the Maginot Line by first invading Luxembourg and Belgium to the north, and then descending into France.
Between the wars, the Germans in particular developed a new approach to warfare. They'd seen what happened in trench warfare, and they didn't want to repeat it. And they looked at ways to avoid repeating that. The French, on the other hand, were basically still ready to fight the First World War. They weren't prepared for what the Germans did, and when the Germans went round the Maginot Line, they had no counter.
After overrunning most of France, the Germans circled back to finally take on the Maginot Line. But even when attacked from behind, the French fortifications were exceptionally difficult to destroy.
So we do occasionally, we'll call ourselves America's Fortress for a reason, and that is because we are, by design, here for the worst day in American history. We are sitting here today as the #1 DoD rated EMP protected facility. We like to say we're the most secure facility in America, because when you're doing command and control of our nation's defense, the security levels are very, very high. Here hearing that thud of the blast door shutting that leaves an impression on you that you're inside some place that not everybody can get to, and it's someplace important. So one of the ways I try to describe what Cheyenne Mountain is for, and really kind of an analogy that people can understand why it's here and what our mission is I equate it to the nervous system in the human body. If you sort of see satellites, ground-based sensors around the world, mobile systems that send us signals, all those hundreds and thousands of sensors around the world that send signals back to us to tell us about an airplane, about a missile launch, about stuff in space for our national defense. If you equate those to sort of the nervous system of our body, ground-based sensors, satellites are out there. They're going to be the first things that sense or detect something going on. Then they have to be fed somewhere. And so what Cheyenne Mountain really is sort of becomes the brain stem where all those nerves come into, similar to your body. We correlate that data so that it becomes a coherent message. And then we pass it on then to the decision makers, the national leaders of the United States, the President, the Secretary of Defense, the National Command Authority in the Pentagon. But before they get it, it has to be that correlated. So that's kind of where I look at it as sort of the brainstem of our nervous system. So part of my job as the Deputy Director for the base is kind of like running an underground city. And with that becomes some very unique challenges. And the fire department is one of the most unique fire departments I've ever worked with in my entire career. But likewise, civil engineers, the structural folks have to watch geological movement, rock falls, spalling of the rock in the tunnels. That also presents a very unique mission set. Our communications engineers, how do you get comm lines into a tunnel a mile underground? And then the plethora of other base support functions that I have to provide every day. A small chapel, a small hospital, a small dining facility, those life services that you want to bring to the employees that are down here doing the mission. So we always have to keep an eye towards that modernization investment that goes along with the new mission systems, the new mission partners that move in, so that we can continue to provide that national defense for the next 50 years.